Hi everyone, this is Shivam. Welcome to the final video of the series Kubernetes for Beginners. So far in this series, we have learnt about how Kubernetes runs your application inside containers, inside pods, and exposes them internally using services. But there is one big piece missing. How does the traffic from the internet reaches your Kubernetes application? Your app is running, pods are healthy, services exist, but the users are sitting outside the Kubernetes cluster. So how do browser request reaches your Kubernetes application? That is exactly what we will understand in today's video using Ingress. Let's move on to the presentation section and we'll learn more about Ingress. So first of all, by default, Kubernetes applications are not accessible from the internet. Pods are internal, containers are isolated. Even when we use services like cluster IP, which is internal only, NodePort exposes your app but with limitations. NodePort uses random high port numbers, don't scale well, and becomes messy when you have multiple applications. Imagine running a front end, a backend API, a database, and an admin UI. Exposing all of these with different ports quickly becomes unmanageable. This is the problem Ingress is designed to solve. So first, let's understand what is Ingress. Ingress is nothing but an entry point into the Kubernetes cluster. Think of it as a traffic router or a reverse proxy for Kubernetes. Ingress allows you to expose your application using clean URLs, route traffic based on paths and host names, forward requests to the correct service inside the cluster. Instead of exposing every service individually, Ingress sits in front and manages all incoming HTTP and HTTPS traffic. Now let's understand one important topic without which Ingress cannot function, and that is called Ingress Controller. Ingress itself does not handle traffic. Ingress is just a set of rules. To make those rules work, Kubernetes needs an Ingress Controller. Some common examples of Ingress Controller are Nginx Ingress Controller, Traffic, and Cloud Provider Ingress Controllers. So basically, Ingress Controller watches Ingress resources, configures a real proxy or a load balancer, and handles actual user traffic. This is something important. Without an Ingress controller, Ingress does nothing. You might be wondering what traffic flows with Ingress looks like. At a very high level, traffic flows like this: from user's browser to Ingress, then to service, then to pod, and finally to the container which is running your application. The user never talks directly to pods. Ingress acts as the gateway between the internet and your cluster. Now we have learned how Ingress works, let's see Ingress in action. As we can see, I already have a client cluster running locally. Kind runs Kubernetes inside Docker, which makes it very lightweight and easy to use. So for my cluster, I have one control plane node and two worker nodes. Now let's go ahead and install Nginx controller first. I will paste this link into the description section of this video so that you can use this to install Nginx controller on your kind cluster. Our Ingress controller has been installed. Let's check it. So our Ingress controller is up and running. Remember, Ingress is just a set of rules. To actually handle traffic, we need an Ingress controller. So here I have installed Nginx Ingress controller, which is one of the most commonly used ones. Now let's go ahead and create a sample deployment using Nginx image. So our deployment got created. Let's check it. Our deployment is up and running. Now let's expose our deployment on port 80 using cluster IP service. So our service has now been created. Let's check it. Okay, we have our demo service up and running. Now let's check the pods. So we have one pod running which was created by our deployment. So this application is running inside the cluster and the service type is cluster IP, which we all know is an internal service. At this point, there is no way for an external user to access our application. Now let's go ahead and create an ingress. I have already created an ingress, so let me copy the configuration. So what is happening here? So you can see the kind is Ingress. The name of the ingress is demo ingress. This is our host or the URL from which our application will be accessible. You can type anything like www.abc.com or anything, whatever. The path type is prefix, and this is the most important part. where you connect your Ingress to route your traffic to the service. So it says backend service, and the name of the service, what we created just now was demo app. So this is what we are writing here, and our service was running on port 80. So that's the port number. Now let's go ahead and save this, and we will apply our Ingress. Our Ingress got created. Let's check it. My bad. Okay, our Ingress is now created and we can clearly see that the host is demo.local. Again, Ingress never talks to pod directly. It always forwards the traffic to service. By the way, I forgot to mention that you don't have to memorize the YAML configuration for Ingress. It is easily available on the Kubernetes website. Let me show you how you can find it. So go to kubernetes.io and search for Ingress. Click on the first link and scroll down and you will see this, the Ingress resource. This is exactly from where I got my Ingress created. So again, the kind is Ingress. The name of the Ingress given here is minimal Ingress, and prefix is, sorry, path type is prefix. The name of the service is test, and the service itself is running on port 80. So again, you don't have to remember the YAML configuration, just copy paste it whenever you need it. Since kind cluster runs inside Docker, traffic reaches the Ingress controller via localhost. So on Windows machine, we have to add our URL, which is demo.local in etc host file. Let me show you how you can do that. So this is my etc host file, and you can see here I have added this demo.local. So add the URL in your etc host file and save this. Then you will be able to access your application via browser. So let me save this and we'll go ahead and try to access our application from browser. So let me try to access my application using URL demo.local. And we can see our application is accessible. We can see the welcome page for Nginx, and remember we created our deployment using Nginx image. So this explains that our Ingress and our Ingress controller both are working in my kind cluster locally. Again, the user never talks to the pod directly. Ingress acts as a single entry point into the cluster. If you want to build a complete web-based messaging application using Python, Docker, MongoDB, and Kubernetes, and expose it locally using Ingress, then do check out my video on my channel, which is build a full stack web app using Python, Docker, and MongoDB. Here I have created a custom messaging application using Python and MongoDB, and I have exposed it using Ingress. Here you will be able to create your own Docker image for your custom application, push it to Docker Hub, and then we will deploy our application locally on our Kubernetes cluster, and we'll access it via browser. So this demo is not just an example, it's the same pattern you use in a real production system. Ingress is how the internet talks to Kubernetes cluster. Once you understand this, exposing real applications becomes much easier and cleaner. And with that, we have reached the end of our Kubernetes for Beginners series. We started with containers and pods, moved to services, ConfigMaps, secrets, and finally we saw how the internet reaches your Kubernetes app using Ingress. If you have followed this series till here, you now understand the core building blocks of Kubernetes. From here on, you can confidently move into advanced topics or start building real-world applications. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, keep learning.